We return now to the Republican National Convention, officially now underway in Milwaukee. Donald Trump's pick for a running mate announced about 2 hours ago. It is Ohio U.S. Senator J.D. Vance, and the former president likely to appear briefly tonight on stage, actually, his first public appearance since the assassination attempt nearly 48 hours ago. Now, just a couple hours ago, I spoke to ABC's Washington bureau chief, Rick Klein, about what we can expect from this rather unconventional convention.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild scene coming just 2 days after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. I have seen delegates practicing what seemed to be coordinated fight with the fist in the air, just like Donald Trump in that now already iconic picture. There's going to be energy, there's going to be excitement, enthusiasm that's going to, I think, overcome any of the somberness that has been felt not just among Republicans but across the nation in the wake of the sad and tragic events on Saturday. People are jazzed to be here, and unlike Trump's previous two conventions, this is a Trump, MAGA-friendly crowd. There's almost no sight here of anyone who is anti-Trump or never Trump. It is going to be enormous amounts of unity and excitement and a feeling that Trump has a very, very good chance of being elected president again.
It was going to be a very Trump, mega kind of convention anyway. But things have changed. I mean, there's no question, politically speaking, and, you know, thank heaven he's all right. Thank heaven that bullet wasn't a half inch the other way, because it would have been horrible. But the political ramifications of this attempted assassination are deep.
Yeah, you can't overstate it. And in fact, there's really not any precedent for it. I mean, you go back to 1968 when Robert F. Kennedy was shot and killed during the Democratic primaries out there right after the California primary. That, of course, killed him. It changed the election in a different way. But to have a candidate injured like this, not to mention a former president injured like this, and then defiant in his response, it is uncharted territory. Yeah. There's no way you can look at history of polling or anything else and begin to even think about what might happen next.
And politically speaking and legally speaking, the president seems to have had in the last couple of weeks a pretty, full throttle hand of cards, all aces or something.
Oh boy, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's remarkable, Bill. I don't know how you'd find a stretch of more luck, and I'm not saying getting shot at is luck, but clearly there was luck involved in him avoiding serious injury by millimeters at best. And beyond that, to see Joe Biden's bad debate performance, and then again just today having the legal case against him in Florida dropped. A lot of people thought that was the strongest legal case that existed out there, but to have that lifted from him, even if it ends up coming back, is just a remarkable streak that it seems like it is a lucky streak that unlike any we've seen in politics.
There are a lot of people who thought that the former president would appear on the first night of the convention. There was some debate about it, but now there's no debate about it. I seem to remember, though, Rick, back in Cleveland in 2016, he showed up briefly at first night as well, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's right. And look, the tradition of kind of teasing people with a potential appearance, that's what most presidential candidates have done. This presidential candidate, this former president, knows television better than anyone. He knows the power of those images. You could see it in his immediate reaction to the gunshot. I think we're going to see a lot of him starting today.
Are we going to see as well, perhaps, the things we heard and saw happen over the weekend, that there was this sense of we have to stop the vitriol. We have to stop the division. We have to stop all of the bad words that people use about each other.
I'd love to give you an optimistic answer, Bill, but as we talk about often on Up Close, there's really no guessing. This was one person. We are still unclear what drove him. Clearly, though, it's emblematic, if not symptomatic, of a larger political sickness in the country. President Biden last night calling for the temperature to be down. We'll see if President Trump, who says he's rewritten his entire speech, keeps that same tone, and maybe just importantly, whether these delegates leave here with that same sense of optimism and unity. Okay. I have a feeling it's going to be tested in the next couple of days.
We thank Rick Klein for joining us. He's going to be there all week. By the way, stay with Eyewitness News for the latest on the Republican National Convention. Our Kimberly Richardson will have live reports from Milwaukee.